Welcome back to Englopod, the podcast where you build confidence and shape your future. Um, Today we're doing something a little bit different for this deep dive. We aren't just going to look at a list of facts, we're actually going to tell a story.
Right. A story about a very famous man, but we're starting when he was just a boy.
Exactly. It's a story about pain and rockets and basically never giving up.
And since this is a deep dive, we're going to really take our time. We'll speak clearly, and we'll stop to explain the big ideas as we go. So just get comfortable. Let's step into the world of Elon Musk.
So, our story begins in a very specific place and time. It's 1983. We are in Pretoria, South Africa.
Yep.
I want you to imagine a hospital room. It's very quiet. And in the bed sits a 12-year-old boy. His face is completely swollen, it's puffy and bruised, and there's dried blood on his nose. He is in a lot of physical pain.
Yeah, that is a really dark place to start a story.
Yeah.
But to understand the man, we kind of have to understand this exact moment. So what actually happened to him?
Well, earlier that day, he was just at school. He was eating a sandwich, and suddenly a group of bullies attacked him.
Bullies.
Right? These were older, bigger boys who wanted to hurt him. They pushed him down a set of concrete stairs.
Oh, wow.
And concrete is that hard gray stone we use for sidewalks. It is incredibly hard.
That sounds just incredibly painful.
It was. They kicked him in the head. His younger brother was watching from far away, but he was just too small to help. The bullies beat Elon until his face was practically unrecognizable.
Well,
You couldn't even tell who he was. He actually had to stay in the hospital for a full week.
that is just a deeply traumatic experience. But sadly, for Elon, the physical pain, the actual pain in his body, wasn't even the worst part.
No, it wasn't, because when he finally went home, he expected comfort, you know. He thought his father would hug him.
Right, you want your parents to comfort you.
Exactly. He thought his father would say something like, "I'm so sorry this happened," but his father didn't do that at all.
What do you do?
Instead, his father yelled at him. He called Elon stupid. He called him worthless. And he made this injured boy stand in front of him for an hour, just listening to horrible insults.
That is heartbreaking. I mean, it creates such a lonely feeling. The boy basically felt like he was nothing.
Yeah.
But this brings us to the central mystery of our deep dive today. That boy was Elon Musk. And today, he is the richest man in the world. He's the man building rockets to go to Mars.
Right. So the question for you listening is how? How does a lonely, bullied boy who was told he was nothing become this person?
That is exactly what we're going to uncover. And to understand this journey, we need to talk about two very important words today. The first one is resilience.
Resilience. I
Right.
really love that word. It just sounds strong.
It is a strong word. Resilience basically means the ability to recover quickly when things get difficult, getting back up when you fall.
Right.
Think of a rubber band. You stretch it and it snaps back. It doesn't break. So when bad things happen, a resilient person gets back up. And Elon showed incredible resilience.
He really did. And he also showed our second word today, which is innovation. Innovation means making new things, not just improving an old thing, but creating something completely new.
Exactly. So let's go back to South Africa for a minute. Elon is in pain. School is a nightmare. And his home is really difficult because his father has this sort of Jekyll and Hyde personality.
Ah, Jekyll and Hyde. That comes from an old story about a man with two faces, right? One good and one evil. His father's moods would just change instantly.
Right. So how does a kid escape from that? He couldn't physically leave the house yet, so he escaped with his mind.
He became a massive reader. He read everything he could find. He actually read the entire encyclopedia.
Wow.
Yeah, and a lot of science fiction books. And he found this one very strange book called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Have you read this one?
I have, yeah. It's a very funny, very weird book.
It is. In the story, a giant supercomputer is built to find the answer to the universe. The computer thinks for millions of years, and finally it gives the answer, and the answer is just the number 42.
It's just 42.
Mm.
And nobody in the story knows what it means.
Exactly, because nobody knows what the actual question was. It's a joke in the book. But for young Elon, it was a really serious lesson. He realized that the answer didn't matter if you didn't know the right question.
And they gave him a whole new perspective. Perspective is a great word for us to explain here.
Go ahead.
Perspective is basically how you see the world. It's your point of view. So Elon's perspective changed completely.
Hmm?
He learned that asking the right question is actually more important than the answer.
That is a very deep thought for a 12-year-old. And around this time, at age 11, he saw a computer for the first time.
Oh, the start of it all.
Yes. To him, it looked like pure magic. He learned a 60-hour coding course in just 3 days.
3 days.
3 days. And by age 13, he coded a video game called Blastar and sold it for $500.
So he was already an entrepreneur. But he knew he couldn't stay in South Africa.
No.
He felt trapped there. By the time he was 17, he realized he had to leave his father. He wanted to go to America, to the land of opportunity.
Right. But getting straight to America was tough. So he packed a backpack full of books, took about $4,000, and traveled to Canada first.
And this was not an easy trip. When he got to Canada, it was a real struggle.
Yeah, he had to take really hard physical jobs. He worked on a farm, and then he worked at a lumber mill cleaning boilers.
The boiler room job. This is intense.
It really is. I mean, he had to wear a hazmat suit. A hazmat suit is a heavy protective suit for dangerous situations. He had to crawl into a tiny, boiling hot tunnel.
Just to shovel hot sand and sticky goo.
Exactly. And the heat was so extreme that if he stayed in that tunnel too long, he could actually die.
He called that job a Dickensian nightmare.
Let's unpack that.
Sure. So a nightmare is a very bad dream.
Yeah.
But we use it in conversation to mean a terrible situation. And Dickensian refers to old stories by Charles Dickens about very poor, awful working conditions.
It was a brutal job. But eventually he made it to university. First Queen's University in Canada, and then the University of Pennsylvania in the U.S.
And that's where he really found his purpose. He decided his life would focus on 3 goals: the internet, clean energy, and space.
Which leads us to the chapter of his life where he starts winning and losing millions of dollars.
Let's talk about his first startup.
Right. It was called Zip2. He practically lived in the office. He slept on the floor, coded all night. And when he sold it, he made $22 million. He was only 27 years old.
22 million. That's incredible.
But then he bought a $1 million McLaren sports car. And he tried to show off to his future wife, Justine.
Oh, no.
He pressed the gas pedal too hard, crashed the car, and it literally flew into the air and was destroyed.
And he wasn't even wearing a seatbelt,
Right.
right? That moment really defines the word invincible. Invincible means feeling like nothing can hurt you, like you're Superman. The crash showed he wasn't invincible physically, but in business, he still felt like he couldn't lose.
Which brings us to PayPal. He started a company that merged to become PayPal. But while he was on his honeymoon with Justine, the other executives decided to fire him as CEO.
It was a coup.
A kid?
Yeah, you just pronounce it like coup. A coup is a plan to take power away from a leader, secretly. So while he was flying over the ocean, they took his company.
But the wild thing is, even though he was fired, eBay eventually bought PayPal. And Elon walked away with $175 million.
He had enough money to retire forever. He could have just bought an island.
But he didn't. He decided he wanted to go to Mars.
Which sounds crazy. He actually went to Russia to try and buy old rockets.
Yeah, and the Russians just laughed at him. They demanded $20 million for a single rocket. They didn't take him seriously at all.
But on the plane ride home, he opened his computer. He built a spreadsheet and calculated the cost of the raw metal and the fuel.
And what did he find?
He realized he could build rockets himself for just 10% of the price. That was the start of SpaceX.
And right around the same time, he invested his money in a little electric car company called Tesla.
So he's building rockets and electric cars at the same time.
Yeah.
But we also have to mention the personal tragedy here.
Yeah.
His first son, Nevada, died suddenly as a baby. It was devastating. But Elon refused to grieve openly. He basically buried all his pain in his work.
He just worked constantly. And that leads us to 2008, the absolute worst year of his life.
A terrible year.
SpaceX launched 3 rockets. Every single one exploded. Tesla was completely out of money, and he was getting a divorce.
Everything was falling apart. He had to make a choice. He had little money left. Did he save SpaceX or did he save Tesla?
This was his all-in moment. He chose to risk everything to save both companies. He spent his very last dollar.
He was completely out of money.
Right, he was days away from bankruptcy.
Bankruptcy. That is when you have absolutely zero money left to pay your debts. Your business is legally finished. He was that close to losing it all.
But then a miracle happened. The 4th rocket launch for SpaceX succeeded. It went up and it stayed up.
Thank goodness.
And just days before Christmas, NASA called him with a $1.5 billion contract.
Amazing. Both companies were saved at the absolute last second.
It's an unbelievable story. But it makes you wonder, how does he think? How does he solve problems that seem completely impossible to everyone else?
Well, he uses an algorithm. It starts with something called first principles thinking.
First principles.
Yeah. It basically means boiling a problem down to its most basic scientific truth instead of just doing what other people do. He uses something he calls the idiot index.
The idiot index. I love that concept.
It's brilliant. If a finished part costs $100, but the raw metal to make it only costs $10, he says that price is idiotic. So he tells his team to just make the part themselves.
That makes so much sense. And he gives his team a 5-step algorithm to follow. Step 1 is question the rule. Who made the rule? If you don't know, just ignore it.
Step 2 is delete. Remove any parts you don't absolutely need. He says if you don't have to add things back later, you didn't delete enough.
Right. Step 3 is simplify. Make the design as simple as possible. Step 4 is accelerate. Make the process go faster.
And step 5 is automate.
Automate.
Automate means using robots or machines to do the work instead of humans. But Elon made a huge mistake at Tesla by automating too early. The robots couldn't do certain jobs, and the factory slowed down.
So the lesson is only use robots at the very end.
Exactly.
So we've talked a lot about rockets and cars, but how can you, the listener, use this in your own life?
Let's go through some practice steps.
Yeah.
Step 1, the delete rule. Think about your own schedule, maybe how you practice your English. Are you doing things that aren't actually useful? Delete them. Cut out what doesn't work.
Step 2, question the rules. Do you think you absolutely must have a traditional teacher to learn something new? Question that. Elon taught himself rocket science by reading books.
Right. You can use podcasts, reading, all sorts of things.
And step 3, resilience.
Yeah.
When you try something new, like speaking a new language, you are going to make mistakes.
You'll crash a few rockets.
Exactly. Don't stop. Elon crashed 3 rockets before he succeeded. Just keep launching.
That's great advice. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, let's do a quick quiz for you listening. See if you remember the story.
Okay, let's do it.
Question 1. Why did Elon leave South Africa when he was 17?
Let's give them a second.
Okay.
He left to escape his father and to find opportunity in America. He just went to Canada first as a stepping stone.
Perfect. Question 2. What did Elon realize when the Russians demanded $20 million for one rocket?
Think about the spreadsheet on the airplane.
Yep.
He realized he could build it much cheaper himself by looking at the actual cost of the materials.
Exactly. And the last question. What is the first principle of thinking?
The answer is it's boiling a problem down to the basic scientific truth, rather than just copying what others do.
Well done if you got those right.
So, to summarize, Elon Musk is a very complex man. We aren't saying he's perfect. He can be very difficult. But he fundamentally believes that the only laws you cannot break are the actual laws of physics. Everything else is just a suggestion.
I want to leave you with one final thought today. Elon believes humans have to go to Mars to survive. And he is willing to suffer incredible pain to make that happen. The question is, what is your Mars?
What is the goal that you are willing to struggle for? Find your Mars and build your rocket.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Keep practicing, be resilient, and we'll see you next time on Englopod.